Let's bring in my next guest, Trump 2020 campaign press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany. Great to see you, Kayleigh.
Good to see you, Liz.
Okay, this should be a wake-up call to Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. The majority of Democrats who support their government-run health care lost their midterm races. Your reaction?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Lost their midterm races, and now we see Elizabeth Warren fledgling in the polls, losing, half of the support that she had gained. And she's losing because of Medicare for All, which is really government takeover of health care. When Americans learn the details, the prospects of Medicare for All fall in the polls, and so too do the prospects of Elizabeth Warren being the Democrat nominee.
Yeah, the numbers coming in from Sabato's crystal ball is 45%, only 45. Looks like 55% of the Democrats who support government-run health care lost their races. And let's take it to Canada. A British Columbia Supreme Court case now underway notes possibly thousands of single-payer patients dying annually on the wait list for surgery there. Not enough anesthesiologists for cancer surgeries, brain surgeries, aneurysm. They're dying in Canada.
That's right. And this is a startling case that this is coming to fruition, but it's not startling that this has been happening. Going back to 2014, the Fraser Institute calculated that about 63,090 women might have lost their lives waiting for care in Canada. Surprise, surprise. Government takeover leads to wait times, leads to casualties. It happens in the UK, it happens in Canada, and now we have more proof of that.
You know what's breaking news coming in? Joe Biden just telling Fox News' Peter Doocy that he will not appear voluntarily at an impeachment trial. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, Joe Biden doesn't want to incriminate himself. He is, after all, quid pro Joe. He is the only person, not President Trump, Joe Biden, who engaged in a quid pro quo, his son Hunter getting that lucrative deal, a prosecutor being fired in the process. There are a lot of questions here to be answered. Joe Biden doesn't want to incriminate himself. I guess I can't blame him there.
Kayleigh, a recent Quinnipiac poll shows Elizabeth Warren lost half of her national support in just 1 month's time. We reported on camera that the day she released her plan to pay for her government takeover of health care was the day her campaign would blow up on the launch pad. Because I want your reaction to this. Even Obama officials, Neera Tanden, Kathleen Sebelius, said their idea is absurd, that they never got 60 votes for anything. So why should voters go for their government takeover of health care?
Sure, and you saw Pete Buttigieg echoing that and questioning Liz Warren, and it was at that moment in the debates where her prospects started to sink, when even her fellow Democrats said, hey, how are you going to pay for this? And she didn't have an answer. But all of the Democrats, whether it's Liz Warren or Joe Biden, who has a public option that would have the same inevitable outcome as government takeover, either one of them will lead to disastrous results for the country. And the more the American public learns about that, the more they're going to fall in the polls.
You know what's interesting? The Democrat debate's no longer a factor. No clear winners emerging. They're still playing to the fringe in terms of health care, taxes, and more. What's really interesting is Michael Bloomberg doing an end run around that, skipping the debates, skipping out and campaigning to focus on Super Tuesday, plowing money into battleground states. I want to get to this. Nebraska Republican Senator Ben Sasse really tearing into Michael Bloomberg for saying that Chinese Communist Party leaders that the leader there is not a dictator, that basically they listen to the public. He's saying, Senator Sasse says, quote, this is the kind of stupid you cannot script.
That's right. And it's not just Bloomberg who's saying that, the Chinese president isn't a dictator. It's Joe Biden saying multiple times the Chinese are not a threat to our country. So from Joe Biden and Michael Bloomberg, they dismiss this government that has taken advantage of U.S. citizens, been a nightmare to its own citizens. And that's not going to work. The American public stands very much against the unfair trade practices of the Chinese. So Bloomberg, I'm not sure who he's trying to win over with that statement.
Kayleigh McEnany, great to see you. Come back soon.
Thank you, Liz.